A 6-year-old little girl from Orlando, Florida, is seen here being escorted to a car, a police car. She's ranting, raving, kicking, screaming, just at her wit's end. Doesn't really know what to do. I'm sure she's confused. I'm sure she's afraid. No doubt frustrated. So she's pleading with this police officer to not take her in his police car, nor does she want him to place handcuffs on her. However, the car that she's afraid of is a car that should be used to carry adults who have broken the law, not children who are having temper tantrums, meltdowns, or even exhibiting mental health behaviors. When we look at this picture and we see this child, we wonder what could be going on. However, what we do know is that this child who is afraid and this child who is screaming, we do know that she could use some help from what could be a loving or a concerned parent, possibly even a trusted adult. But she doesn't get that. She's met with a forceful punishment. No doubt one that many people may think that she probably deserved. However, when you're confused and you're afraid, you rarely know what is the best mode for you, and especially if you are a child. One of the things that we like to think about is that when our children are placed in these situations, what could we do? For we see that there are some things that could take place, because for that little girl, what we also know is that her life would take a different turn for her. Her life from this point forward may be a little different from what our lives would be. For instance, what would it be like when she sees a police cruiser passing her house, maybe just trying to patrol her neighborhood? Or if her life is threatened, who would she call? In addition to those things, we may even take into consideration that this child at this point is going to need some type of intervention, some type of help. This is why we look for other scenarios such as restorative justice. We would choose restorative justice over punitive justice because it heals all parties. It helps individuals to not take things from a bad situation and turn it into a much worse situation. You see, when we have situations that are happening or scenarios that are happening, we end up leaving scars on not just children, but also on society. It hurts our communities at large. We see here a young lady, 15 years old, at Spring Valley High School in Columbia, South Carolina. She refuses to give up her cell phone, at which point a principal and an officer is called. Once they are called, they will have to come and assess the situation. But from what we can see, it wasn't assessed very clearly. Instead, the officer attempts to snatch her out of her chair. When she's snatched out of the chair, she's pulled over and dragged on the floor like an unwanted rag doll. What would we do in a situation like this? We would try to restore all the parties. We would try restorative justice. Because if we don't try restorative justice, what would end up happening is that these parties would turn around and repeat this very behavior. Grabbing someone out of their chair is a barbaric act. And it's not an act that we want our children to repeat. It causes more problems than it does good. Once we try to restrain a person, it's very unlikely that we will be able to regroup or recover quickly. In that moment, not only do we lose the trust of the citizen, but we lose the trust of the classmates as well. When there are people that are bullying, whether it be children or adults, there will be a lasting, long-term effect on those parties. We have seen time and time again the result of bullying, taunting, misbehaviors, whether it be from children or adults. We've seen time and time again examples like Columbine High School, examples like Stoneman Douglas, examples like Parkland, Virginia Tech shootings. No longer can we jeopardize our school climates by allowing any type of negative behavior to roam the hallways of our schools. No longer can we not turn and see what's happening when our children's lives are being jeopardized. We have to try other forms of discipline than push out. School push out happens when we continually place children in school suspension, out of school suspension, expulsions. School push out hurts not only our society, but it hurts us economically. When children are dismissed from schools, it causes them to have low self-esteem. It also causes them to have low self-worth and become low-income citizens. We need all parties involved. We need to ensure that all children are in school when they should be in school. This is not just a parent problem. When children are no longer attending schools, our economy takes a hit. Our economy will take a hit because when children are becoming homeless or youth are becoming homeless, someone has to pay for that. And so we have to take a look at what we are doing to ensure that our children are remaining in school, not being pushed out of school, that their education is not being jeopardized, and that we are making sure that they are not falling down on a criminal path versus becoming more educated. We do need more education and less incarceration. For when a child is constantly missing school, they are constantly missing work. And when they're missing work, they're missing out on new skills that are being taught. This is pushing them back further in their education. And so we would much rather see students that are in school and getting what they need so that they can become self-sufficient in years to come. Now, am I suggesting that we allow students to sit in class and disrupt other students' behavior? Well, of course not. I would not ask for anyone to say, yes, that would be a viable method. It is not. But I will say that we can try other forms of discipline, such as restorative justice, which heals. You see, when you have a child being carried off in handcuffs, or a student being slammed to the floor, restoring that community should be the first line of defense. We should make sure that all parties understand that in our country, we all have the freedom to live, the freedom to learn, the freedom to work, and the freedom to walk and talk as anyone else does. Because this is what our country is about. We need restorative justice. We need to ensure that we don't have children spending more time in school suspension, out of school suspension, or being expelled than we do have them sitting in a classroom or a learning environment. We need to start looking and paying more attention to what is considered the school to prison pipeline. We have to make sure that we have more counselors in school. We need more parents. We don't need more cop involvement. We do need more parent engagement. We need more community involvement. We do not need cell block recruitment. We need to ensure that our children are getting the best, not only of us, but what other adults that we're placing in their spectrums. We hope that you will take the time to consider these efforts. And when your child comes back home and talks to you about their day, we want to ensure that we are letting them know that we are in support of them, that we trust them, and that we are encouraging them, because we will make sure that we support the cradle to career pipeline and not the school to prison pipeline. Thank you so much for attending today.